ごめんなさい。
Interesting. Really? I did not expect that. I was sure that they would lead into a second CG. But to think it would cut off right there? Very surprising. I was so flabbergasted that I accidentally skipped to the next line. I think we should talk about what happened today.
ごめんなさい。さっきはちょっとやりすぎちゃった。
Nagiko replied and hung her head dejectedly. Now here's the thing, right? Because of the fact that there was only one CG and they didn't fuck, I think Nagiko's route has the shortest H scene in the entire game. Wait. Hold on, not that. I wasn't talking about that.
そうなの?
I wish you'd forget all that loot stuff that happened in the bathroom. The other thing that happened was more important. I was talking about surfing.
ああ、そっか。でも、反省会ってどんなことするつもりなの?
I want to know why you flubbed the photo shoot so hard. I mean, do you really need her to spell it out? It'll happen again unless we figure out the reason.
まあ、それはわかるけど。
Like, it's not really that big of a secret. She's got a lot of baggage, and most of that baggage is connected to Aikido. Like, is the fact that she hasn't discussed any of that surfing stuff with her dad not a big red flag? Is not the right word. A hint, I guess. It is not a big hint to why she fucked up her photo shoot. Did she not want to think about what happened this afternoon? Even her tone was slightly evasive.
私自身、なんで失敗したのかわかんないわよ。実際にライディングする直前まで絶対に失敗しないと思ってたし。
Same here. I thought your writing form was just as clean as it usually is.
じゃあ、どうして失敗したの?
I mean, I'm not sure how you expect me to answer. I could think of one reason. Maybe you got worked up because you knew someone was recording. That is a possibility. But compared to another very obvious reason, it probably didn't affect her as much.
それは、あるかも。
Because of the simple fact that she knew that there were a lot of people watching her surf the other time, and you can guarantee that some of them were recording videos, and she landed every trick she thought of, right? Every trick she's done before, every trick she's never been able to do before, she landed every trick, right?
さすがに初体験だったから。初体験。
What? I mean, like, I get that you just went through a H scene and now you're thinking about it. But, like, you know, Nagiko, where was she looking? Wait, the bed? Oh, right, and that too. Oh, when she said her first time, that came to mind.
なんでもない。それよりも撮影のことよね。
Yeah. She blushed and forced the conversation back on topic.
確かに、昨 気負ってたのは間違いないと思う。でも、大会の前にも言ったと思うけど、私って見られることは苦にならないのよね。慣れてるというか、あまり緊張しないって意味で。
Yeah, you did mention something like that before. But you just admitted to getting worked up about it. It's not uncommon for people to freeze up the moment they're in front of a camera. With that being the case, you could always refuse to you could always refuse to be photographed. Yeah, but would that really work? Nagiko's expression darkened by my suggestion. At my suggestion. You don't want to turn her down?
せっかくのチャンスだし、頑張りたい。それに、せっかく私に声をかけてくれた五十嵐さんの期待にも応えたい。
I see. I guess you won't be turning her down then. Weren't those the same feelings that led to her getting worked up in the first place? She wanted to seize this chance. Wanted to meet expectations. And that was entirely likely to put heavy pressure on her, in my opinion. But I didn't want to rain on her parade. At least not right now. Let's go to the beach tomorrow. Why don't you give those tricks one more try?
そうね。多分それでコツをつかみ直せると思う。
Well, you're never gonna get into the right headspace until you've cleared up the thing with your dad. As in, the not mentioning any of this to your dad part.
今日やろうとしたことくらい、なんてことないもの。
Nagiko held her chest high. She must have felt confident in herself.
むしろ、それ以上の技の練習したいかも。次の撮影までにもっとすごい技を覚えたいし。
She was certainly motivated. And her enthusiasm was nothing to scoff at. But I'm worried if she might be going in circles. Alright, starting tomorrow, let's hold our own training camp.
合宿？泊まったりするの？
Let's hold our own training camp. I don't know. Both work, but... Nah, we can't do that.
そうよね。
I mean, like, I'm not opposed to sleeping in the same bed as you, but, you know... I can guarantee that Ritsu is probably gonna... Well, no. I don't know. The slumber party thing is weird, because why the fuck did she have a suitcase if she's going to someone's house for a sleepover? Like, she's not moving over to Riri's? Hibiki's? One of them. For like, however long, right? She's staying for like, what? 1-2 nights at the most? A bag is adequate enough. As nice as that sounded, it was liable to lead to indiscretions. Like what happened in the bath earlier. You act like that was a bad thing, alright? I joke about the length of hate scenes being bad, alright? But, like, in the game, it'd be pretty fucking awesome to have sex with Riri for an hour long, alright? I mean, would it though? Never mind. Alright, tomorrow, what time should we start?
そうね。起きたらここに来る。それでいい？
Of course. With that, our plans were officially solidified. I saw Nagiko off when she left for home, and that marked the end of our day.
駆け抜け青春スパーキング。ゆう、朝よ。起きて。
Oh my. It's morning?
そう、朝よ。朝ごはん用意したから、早く起きて。
Got it, Ritsu. God, thinking about other women, huh? Ow! What the heck was that for? She pinched my cheek.
おはよう、ゆう。
Nagiko? Huh? Why was Nagiko here?
何よ、その変な顔。サーフィンの練習する約束だったでしょ？
Yeah, we did, but something tells me you're here way too early for that.
ゆうべから早く練習に行きたくて、つい早くゆうを迎えに来ちゃった。
How many hours of sleep did you get? If you were so eager for practice, if you were so eager to go practice, how long did you stay up after you went home? 'Cause like, I don't think she got the full 8 hours. If you know, I don't know why I was about to say if you catch my drift, like it meant something. That made sense. Why was she in my room though? I thought my door was locked.
それに、リツにユウの食事をお願いしますって頼まれてるからね。
Right, yeah, see, so Ritsu was only there for like a day and she slept over and then came back home very early for some reason. I mean, like she could have stayed over a little longer to justify Nagiko and you being able to sleep together, but you know, she didn't even sleep over in the first place, so I guess there's no problem then.
ちゃんと合鍵だってあるのよ。
Oh, I remembered that. I remembered what Ritsu had said just before she left. This was what she meant when she mentioned help.
さあ、早く起きて一緒に食べましょう。
All right, sure. I'll be right there after I get changed.
私は先に行ってるから。
Was she really that embarrassed? I mean, I was about to offer to let her watch me change, but she already ditched, so unlucky. Nagiko practically ran out of my bedroom. I was trying to say door. I kept reading bedrooms. This was going to make me smirk. Nagiko certainly left one hell of an impression first thing in the morning. Oh, we're having omelette rice for breakfast.
うん、ちょっと失敗しちゃったけど、味は多分問題ないと思う。
You said you messed up, but I bet about all you did was break the yolks. She'd apparently messed up when she tried to roll the eggs over. The omelette was slightly misshapen. However, something was there that caught my eye even more. You drew hard in ketchup.
笑いたければ笑えばいいわ。勢いでやっちゃったけどさ。
Also, I guess I misunderstood what Nagiko was talking about, and I thought that Ritsu had come home early, but instead she's still over at whoever the fuck's place to sleep over. But before the slumber party, Nagiko was given a spare key by Ritsu. Gotcha.
後で冷静になるとすごく恥ずかしくなってきて。
Nah, this makes me ridiculously happy. Almost to the point that it would be a shame for me to eat this. I scooped up a bite of omelette rice and brought it to my mouth. Munch.
どう？失敗はしてないと思うけど。
It's delicious. This isn't ordinary omelette rice, is it?
気づいた？鶏のささみを使ったり、煮干しの粉末を使ったりしてるんだ。
Chicken tenders and sardine powder. I'm getting hungry.
そもそもオムライスはアスリートに大事な栄養をいろいろ含んでるの。
I mean, let me think. So, you get protein and fat from the eggs, and you get carbs from the rice. So I guess Yeah. And then like sugar and salt from the ketchup. So he's not technically wrong. But it's definitely not the first it's definitely not the first food I would think of for an athlete.
ご飯が糖質なのは説明するまでもないけど、ささみで脂質を抑えてタンパク質を摂取。卵では瞬発力にいいビタミン B2 が取れるんだから。
I mean, here's the thing, right? The added chicken tenders is something exclusive to the Nagiko omelet rice. If she's talking about omelet rice in general, the protein is only in the eggs. Yeah, I've heard that somewhere before. I never properly studied nutritional science. I did, however, recall seeing info on the 3 major nutrients often enough. What? Fats, carbs, and protein. The 3 major nutrients. Because here's the thing, right? The problem is, fat has been vilified a bit too much, right? In the same vein that sugar has been vilified, later. What I'm trying to say is, back in the day, you know, big chocolate, if you will, ran a bunch of smear campaigns to disavow people from eating high-fat meals, right? Because it's like, well, it's fat that's making you fat, right? That just makes sense, but not sugar, right? And now, fat is still, you know, it's still bad, right? It's still seen as bad. But sugar has joined that group. And it's like, I mean, technically, you're not wrong. A lot of sugar and a lot of fat can, you know, is not good for you. But, like, a lot of anything is bad for you. So, it's like, you know, in moderation. Take everything in moderation.
その通り。
Alright, and then the addition of sardines also comes with calcium. Sure. I recalled the lunch she had made for me a while back. One that had been tailored for an athlete. Nagiko had always based her meals on her own working knowledge, huh? I mean, it's definitely better than chicken and rice. I mean, chicken and broccoli. And thank you for the meal.
お粗末様でした。じゃあ、後片付けは私がするから、ユウは外出の準備してて。
Nagiko began to cheerfully tidy up the dishes. You look positively giddy.
もちろんよ。今日はユウに新技を披露してあげるわ。
I'm looking forward to it. And looking at her, you wouldn't know that she was down in the dumps yesterday.
ほらほら、早くユウも準備して。
Okay. I get it, so stop pulling me. Nagiko quickly finished cleaning the dishes and grabbed onto my arm. Then she proceeded to tug me away with her. I mean, like...
よーし、やろうよ。
That isn't the only tugging she's done in the last 24 hours. I don't know how I was able to make a joke about when she tugged his peanuts. Yeah, it's great that you're so amped about this, but try to avoid being reckless. Try to avoid being reckless. And we wouldn't want you to get hurt or anything. I was terrified she'd get carried away and wind up in an accident.
わかってるわよ。
I mean, that's another possibility, huh? I didn't really think of that, but he brings up a valid point, and that valid point could also indicate what the conflict will be about. I mean, there has to be there's a reason why I didn't really think about it, right? So I don't know, red herring. Even though it isn't the job of... I call it a red herring, but that would imply that the story is trying to make you is trying to make you guess what the conflict of the route will be.
さすがにそこまで浮かれてないから大丈夫。じゃあちょっと行ってくるわね。
I'll keep an eye on you from here. She carried her board and ran toward the ocean. This was nothing new for her, so everything up to her performing a takeoff seemed to go off without a hitch.
よーし、今日も調子は悪くなさそう。
This is the most common CG of the round. She waited for a slightly heavy wave and performed a takeoff. It's kind of the same as the SDCG in Riri's route of her in her room, rolling around on her bed. Shiori and Hibiki don't really have that kind of CG where it's used multiple times a lot.
しょ、てい。
She whipped up and down repeatedly to gain speed. As usual, her stance was perfect when riding the waves. She seems to be doing well so far. She performed a cutback to change her orientation to gain even more momentum. She seems kind of faster than normal.
ここ。
It was an air reversal. Nagiko went airborne, board and all. Nagiko?
いやー、失敗。よし、次こそ。
Phew. I mean, her getting injured might lead into the central conflict of this route, right? So it wouldn't be a bad way to transition into it, but you know, I would have preferred I would prefer if Nagiko would start would introduce the conflict through her. I was gonna say through her actions, but her getting injured while surfing is one of her own actions, but you know, that's a more unintentional consequence of her reckless surfing, right? Rather than a very intentional, I know that my dad will not approve of me wanting to become a professional surfer, but I need to tell him about this anyway, kind of thing, right? I had panicked when she flipped over, board and all, and wiped out, but I'd apparently been worried over nothing. She started paddling and headed for open water.
よし、行くわよ。
This wave looked better than the one before it. She nailed the takeoff and then gained speed to try and go airborne one more time.
ここ。
She was more cautious than before. However, she still boldly tried to go airborne.
よし、行け。
She didn't jump high enough. The bottom of her board hadn't risen up far enough. The fin of her board caught on the edge of the wave and Nagiko was sent hurtling from her board. Nagiko!
ああ、もう全然うまくいかないわ。もう少しなんだけどな。
These things happen sometimes. Unfortunately, she failed every attempt at landing an air reversal. Once she made her way out of the water, she came back with a sigh.
次やれば絶対に成功するのに。
You've practiced quite a bit today, though. Practiced quite a bit today, though. Why don't you take a break and call it a day call it good for today.
もう少しやりたいんだけど。でも、そうね。事故を起こさないよう、ほどほどにしとかないとね。
With that, today's training camp came to an end. What should I do, though? Nagiko looked kind of irritated to me. Maybe I should change... maybe a slight change of pace would do her some good. Hey, Nagiko, want to drop in at the Youth Collective clubroom tomorrow?
部室に？
I got a text from Shinji earlier. He said he was bored. What with there only being girls around.
そっか。神楽坂には少し辛い環境よね。あの部室。
Yeah, but why is he complaining? He's barely in the fucking clubroom anyway. You've had your hands full with surfing practice. But why don't we stop by for a change? It might have put undue pressure on Nagiko if I had pointed it out to her directly. To be honest, Shinji hadn't sent me a text. I felt bad for using Shinji for my own convenience like that. Ah, so Shinji didn't actually text you about it, complaining. Ow, fuck.
でも、練習もしたいし。
I hit my keyboard. So Shinji didn't... So he's lying. It's funny that Shinji shows up to the clubroom more often when you isn't there. Right? So it's like, if he really was complaining, maybe he should just show up to the clubroom more when you is also at the clubroom, you know? Yeah. We can come back to the beach if there's time after club.
それもそっか。じゃあ、明日は青春部の部室ね。
Would a change of pace really benefit her at all? And what was the best way I could encourage her? I helped Nagiko get ready to head home with that thought on my mind.
駆け抜け青春スパーキング。一緒に部活に行くのも久しぶりだね。
Sure has. I've been spending all of my free time surfing with Nagiko.
ほんと、カイドウ先輩と仲がいいよね、マイ兄は。少しだけ焼けちゃうかも。
I'm sorry we haven't gotten to spend a lot of time together lately, Ritsu. But don't worry. Next route, it's all about you. So you don't need to be jealous for... You won't have to be jealous for too much longer.
別にいいよ。その分響ちゃんと遊んでるし。あ、お兄ちゃん、カイドウ先輩だよ。
I followed Ritsu's line of sight. Nagiko was standing idly by the school building.
おーい、ゆ
Morning, Nagiko.
おはよう。
おはようございます、カイドウ先輩。先日は兄がお世話になりました。朝食をごちそうになったって聞きました。
お世話だなんて。むしろ、私の方がユウにいろいろ助けてもらってるから。
No. I wouldn't say that.
預かり物を返しておくわね。
はい、確かに、受け取りました。でも、いつでも好きな時に来てくださいね。兄もその方が喜ぶと思うので。
That was the sentiment they'd reached after exchanging the house key Nagiko had borrowed. Now that we were with Nagiko, yeah, the three of us made our way to the clubroom.
あら、ユウにナギじゃないの。二人が来るのは久しぶりじゃない？
Hibiki greeted us the second we came into the room. In fact, everyone seemed to be present today.
お久しぶり、響。
最近来なかったけど、何してたの？
We had our hands full with surfing practice. Made it difficult for us to stop by.
そうなんだ。 そういうことなら、こっちに来てる場合じゃないんじゃないの？さっさと練習へ行った方がいいんじゃない？
最初は私もそのつもりだったんだけどね。
Nagiko replied and turned her attention toward me. Well, I was the one who had suggested we make an appearance at the youth collective today. And to be honest, we only stopped in for a quick visit.
そうなの？初耳だよ、お兄ちゃん。
どうかされたんですか？
したいこと？何よそれ。
It appeared I had piqued everyone's interest. This was the first Nagiko had heard of it too, and she was looking at me with surprise. I went to borrow Hijiri's skate surfer to help with Nagiko's training.
そうだったの？
Yeah, I thought it might be worth trying something out of the ordinary.
そっか。うん。確かにそれもいいかも。
So that's the story, Hijiri. Would you mind letting us use your skate surfer?
あれなら好きに使っていいっすよ。そこら辺の荷物の中に埋もれてると思うっすから。ありがとう、ひじり。遠慮なく使わせてもらうわ。
Then again, it was probably going to be a pain to dig it out from under all of Hibiki's stuff.
ナギはあれを使ってトレーニング予定なんだ。それならちょうどいいわ。今日の青春部の活動はまだ決まってなかったし、私たちもそうしましょうか。小日向先輩がそう言うなら。
ですけど、カイドウ先輩の練習の邪魔にならないでしょうか。
ダメ？
I wasn't opposed to the idea, but it was ultimately up to Nagiko. What would you like to do?
問題ないわ。なんなら教えてあげる。
よし！本人がそう言うなら問題ないわよね。
Yeah, if Nagiko is fine with it, I'm not going to object either.
ならこれで決定！みんなでサーフスケートをやるわよ。
Yeah. There was a lively response from Nagiko's command. It looks like the youth collective was the same as ever. The friendly atmosphere might prevent Nagiko from getting worked up.
じゃあみんなお疲れ。
お疲れ様でした。お疲れ様っす。
As dusk came, we called it for today's activities.
本当に疲れた。
普段使わない筋肉を使ったから、絶対に筋肉痛っすよ。
Everyone had been in high spirits. They all sounded pretty worn out.
筋肉痛でしたら、この前のストレッチを試すといいですよ。
この前のって、お泊まり会の時に言ってたやつ？
はい。筋肉痛にも結構いいそうです。
そうなんだ。じゃあ帰ったら早速やらないと。先輩がそう言うなら、私も頑張ってストレッチします。
They talked excitedly amongst themselves while they got ready to go home. Shinji was largely excluded from their chat and looked a little lonely.
では、私はお先に失礼します。皆さん、またお泊まり会しましょうね。
あ、私も帰るわ。歩きながら次の日取りの相談でもしましょう。賛成です。
After collecting their belongings, everyone filed out of the room one by one.
なあ、ユウ。戸締まりは任せていいんだよな。
Sure, no problem.
悪いわね。もう少しトレーニングしてから帰りたいから。
わかりました。じゃあ、俺もお先に。
Shinji finally left the club room, leaving only Nagiko and myself. It had been so rowdy up until a few minutes ago, and the room felt empty now that we were alone. All right, should we get going into the next training segment? I don't know much about it, but I guess we're going to use this exercise ball. Hibiki had been storing a number of her belongings here, the ball included. It could apparently be put to use for training.
ユウはプランクエクササイズって知ってる？
I've never heard of them. If you're I swear to God, if you're including the exercise ball in this training in any way, stop. Alright, that's the best piece of advice I could give you. Don't. Wasn't that the name of some scholar? I mean... Scholar? No. But you're thinking of a different plank. I'd imagine there was no relation though.
簡単に説明すると、体幹や腹筋を鍛えられるトレーニングね。
The plank you're thinking of is spelled P-L-A-N-C-K, alright.
うつ伏せになった状態で、前腕と肘、つま先だけを地面につける。この状態をキープすることで負荷を与えるのよ。
Sounds similar to push-ups, except there's no pushing or lowering. I assumed that exact position to test it for myself.
どう？結構いろんなところに来ない？
Crap, my arms and legs are wobbling like crazy. There was no way I could maintain this position. That's all I can take. I stood up before I collapsed. My legs proceeded to tremble, and I quickly lost my balance. What? My legs had given out.
おっと！
Nagiko reached out to catch me before I fell to the floor. She wasn't exactly in a great position either. My face dove forward, really, and wound up buried in her big, beautiful breasts.
ほら、どこに顔を突っ込んでるのよ！
Listen, you should know how anime logic works at this point, alright? But, sorry. Planking was surprisingly difficult. I quickly ripped my face away from her chest. Damn, she smelled good. My heart thundered in my chest and I frantically worked to maintain my composure. You're supposed to do that on an exercise ball? No. You aren't.
そういうこと。バランスボールに腕をつく感じでやれば、さらに来るのよ。
No. God damn it. If you're trying to train balance, you don't do it with an exercise ball. You just train it by doing the sport that you're trying to train the balancing for. All right? Like you can't train balance for skateboarding by not skating. I'm using skating as an example, but surfing, you know, this is obviously going back to surfing, but like not everyone can or has the ability to surf in the way that not everyone lives by a beach or a beach with especially good enough weather for suitable waves. I can almost feel my abs cramp up just imagining it.
それじゃあやってみるわね。もしバランスが崩れたら補助をお願い。
Sure, I could do that. On that note, we immediately got started. Nagiko placed her arms on the exercise ball and assumed the planking position. And you couldn't have done a CG for that? Bummer.
もう限界。
She did several planks, then got off the exercise ball. Several planks. I mean, you can do them in sets, right? Like a 30-second plank, and then rest, and then do another 30 seconds, and then...
やっぱり何度もやるときついわね。
Yeah. It sure is. I don't think I can do any more either. We took turns, but I was the first to throw in the towel. I definitely didn't hold a candle to an active athlete like Nagiko.
言ったらさっきから生まれたての小鹿みたいだものね。
So you say, but you're shaking a decent amount yourself.
私はまだ平気よ。むしろ、負荷がかかって限界が近くなったこれからが本番なんだから。
It's fine to push your limits, but keep it in moderation, okay?
平気平気。ユウはもうやらないんでしょ？じゃあ、続けて私がもう一回やるわね。
Roger. You got it. For all her talk, I was sure this was getting pretty hard on her too. This might not be necessary. Just to be safe, I was ready to help her at a moment's notice.
よし。じゃあ、行くわよ。
Nagiko shook her hands to work away the numbness and put her arms back onto the exercise ball. I didn't notice anything wrong at first glance. In fact, she didn't look especially bothered by it, however. Her arms started to tremble. Look out! She soon lost her balance and her arms slipped off the ball. I reached out for her immediately. Whoa! There was suddenly a soft yet hefty weight in the palm of my hands. Listen, anime logic, once again.
なんでおっぱいをわしづかみにしてんの？
Sorry, I was trying to support you, and it just happened.
離して。
Wait, don't move. You'll fall on the floor.
でもおっぱいが。
You're dating anyway. Why are you so bothered by it? I understand, but... What? I was desperate to keep her upright while she struggled in my grasp. Unsurprisingly, supporting her proved impossible, and we soon toppled over.
もう、ユウのエッチ。
I don't think I could justify what just happened, but it wasn't on purpose, okay?
本当かしら？さっきも自分が倒れるふりして私の胸に顔を埋めてきたし。
You've got the wrong idea. It really was an accident.
でも、ここ、膨らんでるけど。
Well, yeah, that's to be expected. Nagiko gingerly poked the space between my legs. I was faintly swollen and pitching a small tent. This is a physiological phenomenon. There was Nagiko's wonderful smell and the softness of her breasts. Those two things are what led to this sort of reaction.
ユウのエッチ。別に必死になって隠したりしなくていいわよ。私はちゃんと知ってるから。それに、私はそんなユウも好きなんだから。
Nagiko, then why do you keep calling him that like it's a bad thing? She drew close, looking positively enraptured. We were already close after toppling over from the fall, but she proceeded to lean toward me all the same. I sure hope there's no one outside spying on Nagiko and you or anything. Surely, right? Then... Her lips softly brushed against mine. She shamelessly clung to me as we kissed. She practically squished her body against mine. It was an oddly arousing sensation, especially after touching her breasts earlier. Nagiko, you're driving me crazy.
エッチなことしたくなっちゃったとか？
No, it's not exactly that.
いいよ。する？私がユウの全部受け止めてあげる。
Crap. This was going to obliterate my sense of reason. Nagiko whispered sensually in my ear, which made my heart throb. And something else did as well. To hell with it. Whatever happens, happens. I didn't care that we were in the club room. Well, it's not the first time you've done it in the club room, so... I let instinct guide me and hung over Nagiko.
駆け抜け青春スパーキング。
I met up with Nagiko on the way to the beach and walked with her the rest of the way. Well, it seems that no one was any the wiser, sure, I guess, to the fact that Yu was a bit later than he would have been. And by no one, I mean Ritsu, because, well, sure, right? Nagiko goes to the dojo every day, right? Her dad sees her every day. But, you know, he wouldn't be suspicious if Nagiko was a bit late coming back from the club room, right? Because he I don't know. It's more so Ritsu not being suspicious than Gonzo not being suspicious. Or yeah, that's her dad's name, right? I mean, maybe I mean, he already knows that she's probably dating someone, right? And I kind of feel bad that we haven't seen him since. You know, you introduce him into this route and he hasn't shown up since. And like, I know it might lead to that eventually, you know, him being eventually brought back in, but you know, it's been too long.
今日も朝から付き合わせて悪いわね。毎日ありがとう。
I told you, don't worry about it. I'm doing this because I want to. There are plenty of perks in it for me too. I'm making a lot of great memories, like what happened in the clubroom yesterday. She quickly realized what I'd meant by that comment, and her face gradually darkened. Well, let's hope they cleaned up after themselves.
バカ！そういうことは言わないの！それに恋人なんだし、ある意味で当たり前のことなんだし。
Yeah. I couldn't help feeling embarrassed despite being the one who brought it up.
とにかくよ。
Nagiko gently cleared her throat to try and shift gears. She turned and stared me down.
それでも、ありがとうはありがとうよ。それにしても、今日はめちゃくちゃ気合が入るわね。昨日は海に入れなかったし、絶対に成功させてみせるんだから。
You certainly sound motivated. Yesterday seemed to have made for a good change of pace. Well, you know, sex does that. Asking her to come to the youth collective must have been the right call. Oh, right. Yeah, it's going to the youth collective that day that was the change of pace. And definitely not what happened after. From what I could tell, her mood seemed to have improved drastically. Is that you?
そうみたい。ちょっとごめん。
Is it who I think it is? She retrieved her phone and checked the screen. Her expression shifted, and I could almost hear how startled she was. Nagiko? Who was calling her? She stepped far enough away to answer her phone, while looking visibly tense.
ごめんゆう、お待たせ。
The call had been relatively brief. However, Nagiko's expression remained stiff. Is something wrong?
ああ、うん。五十嵐さんからの電話だった。
あ
あ、うん。
I thought it would be her dad. Of course not.
3日後に撮影したいって。
3 days, huh? That was much sooner than I had expected. Nagiko's stiff expression was also a cause for concern.
次は失敗できないわ。
Yeah, you're right. I certainly hoped she wouldn't get worked up over this. Are you ready?
もちろん。これ以上ないくらいバッチリよ。
She nodded reassuringly, with her surfboard in her grasp. Okay, I'll be watching you from here. Be careful not to hurt yourself, or get into any accidents.
もちろん。よし。行くわ。
She ran off, still just as psyched up as before. Then she dove from the sand into the ocean.
大丈夫。私はできる。大丈夫。パドリングの調子はいい。波も悪くない。
I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. My shoulders felt stiffer than normal too. Breaths came out sharp and ragged. Even so, the surfing conditions were rather favorable.
そうよ。私なら大丈夫。3日後の撮影に備えて、バンバン技を決めてコツをつかみ直さないと。
Each paddle of my arms through the seawater brought me further out into the open water. However, my heart clenched the closer I got to my destination. I suddenly felt overwhelmed with anxiety.
行く。
How many times has it been since... how many sequences? I mean... It's hard to explain. No? How many times... How many scenes have we had where they've shown the CG? There's the right sentence. I successfully performed a takeoff. Thank goodness.
なんだ。ただの取り越し苦労じゃない。このまま速度を上げる。
I paid careful attention to as I maneuvered the waves. As I maneuvered the wave, I rode up and down repeatedly. The excitement built inside me with each repetition.
しゃん。て
I performed a cut back to slice in the opposite direction.
波はよし。速度もよし。私もちゃんと波に乗れてる。
It's okay. I could do this.
ここだ
I carefully waited for my moment to strike, and then I put force behind my legs to perform an air reverse. Something about this felt funny. By the time I noticed it, it was too late. I gave a silent cry as I fell into the ocean. Nagiko, she wiped out again. She'd been trying her best to pull off several aerials, but... Wait, why am I just standing here? I need to head over to help her. I imagined she would be fine, but I needed to know if she was safe. I rushed off in her direction after she'd fallen into the water. How many times had she failed by now? Though... Nagiko, are you alright?
大丈夫。大丈夫だけど、なんか、やればやるほどダメになってる気がする。
She appeared to be unharmed after wiping out, but her expression was nothing short of gloomy. It's almost noon. Why don't we take a quick break? It takes a lot of stamina just to get far enough out into the water, so you have to rest as much as possible. More than anything, pushing yourself when you're already tired is only going to make things worse. There was a noticeable lack of enthusiasm to her voice. At this point, all I wanted was for her to rest and recover her strength. Then, after catching a midday break, Nagiko immediately got back into the water. Another fall. When I saw that she had wiped out, I immediately headed over to help.
もう、どうして
Just like this morning, she hadn't yet landed a single aerial.
どうして、こんなこともできないのよ。
She was trying to perform an air reverse from the start, but it transitioned into an ordinary aerial along the way. All you needed to do was to jump and land. And as simple as that sounded, she'd yet to pull it off.
どうして？
The frustration in her voice resounded in my heart. You did a great job out there today, Nagiko.
うん。
You got to spend the entire day out in the ocean too. It may be summer, but you should be careful not to catch a cold.
うん。
I tried to keep my voice cheerful, but Nagiko sounded unbelievably depressed. You know, when I talked about how this route from the point they introduced Igarashi was either going to be really good or really shit, it's getting there. Alright? It's getting there. Because the worst part about them constantly doing this, about them constantly showing that Nagiko can't do a single fucking trick on the surfboard, is because everyone playing this fucking route knows exactly why. And the only people who don't know exactly why she can't do anything is the people in the route. It is so obvious why she can't do anything that it's painful that I have to fucking sit through this and keep reading how she is constantly failing these tricks, and for some reason neither character is putting two and two together and realize, hey, wait a minute, maybe the reason Nagiko is not surfing as well as she should be is something to do with Igarashi / her dad. Maybe there's something that she isn't telling us. Now, here's the thing. This is more on you. Because with Nagiko, she's in denial. Alright? She's aware of why she isn't able to perform as well as she should be. She just doesn't want to admit it. It is on you to realize why this is happening. Right? Because you knows Nagiko second best. Alright, I'll say Nagiko's dad knows her best. Right? And the worst part is that we haven't gotten any more of Gonzo. Alright, that's the other thing. It just... How many more times do I have to see this happen? Right? There's a rule of... Everyone knows the concept of the rule of threes, right? We've seen her fail the first time in front of Igarashi. We've seen her fail the second time. And is this the third time? Because if there's more, if there's more of this after, then this is a shit route. Alright? It'll all be okay. I'm sure you'll get it. I'm sure you'll get it next time.
やめてよ。そんなこと言わないで。なんでなの？どうして一度もエアを決められないの？
Nagiko, She shook her head slightly, her voice frail.
今までどうやって波に乗ってたのかわからないの。エアーだけじゃない。ライディングだってなんか変になってた。
That was true. Her movements have been inconsistent, and she'd wiped out several times without landing a single trick.
昨日一日海に出なかったのがダメだったのかな。
Well,
ごめん。違うのは私だってわかってるの。今までだって海に出ない日はいくらでもあったんだから。でもダメなの。変なのよ。自分の体じゃないみたいな感じで乗り方が全然わかんないの。何がダメなのかもわからないの。もう全部わかんない。どうすればいいのよ。
sharing these concerns didn't bring her any closer to an answer. I wasn't able to give her any advice either. Tomorrow, I'm sure it'll work out somehow tomorrow. No. Don't let it get to a fourth time, alright? Maybe you weren't in the right headspace today. Or the day before. Or the last time you failed, either. What would someone with her experience say at a time like this? I was just an amateur after all. Nothing I said would hold much weight.
そうね。ユウが言うように、明日になれば風向きも変わるわ。きっと。きっと、明日こそはうまくいくはず。
Of course.
明日も練習に付き合ってよね。ユウ。
Yeah, of course. Was she really going to be okay? Give me something here, game. Alright? Give me a scene with Nagiko and her dad. And if you don't do that, I'm gonna hate this fucking route. Now that we'd made plans, I swallowed back those worries as best as I could. This is the most unnecessary version of this transition. And when I say unnecessary, I mean there is no reason why there had to be a sad transition. Right? It made sense with Shiori. It made sense with Hibiki. It made sense with Riri. It does not make sense here. Alright? Because we already have a solution. We already know what she needs to do. Right? And it's... You know what? Let me hold off. Right? Let me hold off until I get either what I want or what I don't get or what I don't want. Yet another day had passed. Practice yesterday had been similarly unproductive. Right. Each and every one of her several attempts at aerials had ended in failure. Nagiko was hell-bent on pushing through, but was forced to call it quits early when the waves became too dangerous. Right. Yep. Now that the reshoot was on the horizon. She's late, huh? Although I had arrived earlier that morning, it was now past noon, and she was still a no-show. Did something happen on her way here or something? I messaged her on Lynn, but she never responded. Maybe I should head to her place to pick her up. I hesitated when I considered the possibility we might miss each other. I guess I'll wait a little longer.
ごめんユウ。遅くなったわ。
Nagiko, thank goodness. I thought something might have happened to you.
うん。ちょっと寝坊しちゃって。
I see. I took a good look at Nagiko. She didn't appear to be injured. Didn't appear to be injured. The only issue was the blatant anxiety spread across her face.
さあ、今日も頑張りましょうか。私、早速着替えてくるわね。
Sure. Nagiko jogged off to the changing room. It hurt to see her forcing herself to act so cheerfully. I'd be lying if I said she looked fine. Is she really gonna be okay? This is pissing me off. She put on her wetsuit and slowly walked up to the ocean. Nagiko's feet stopped right in place. Nagiko? Was something wrong? The number of people flocking to the beach had dropped drastically now that we were at the end of August. Regardless, there were still a decent number of people having fun on the beach. She ignored the other beachgoers and looked out onto the water with an intense look in her eyes. Hey, Nagiko, are you okay today? No, you don't look okay at all. Anyone could see that from afar, from looking at her. She hadn't stepped foot into the water yet, and I could already tell it wasn't going to go well for her. It was like Nagiko was in a perpetual slump. The reshoot was tomorrow. She was undoubtedly feeling the pressure now. I wished I could step in for her if I were able to, but there was nothing I could do. I'm powerless here, huh? It was pathetic that I couldn't do a thing at times like this. It's already this late. Nagiko, we should consider going home. Time passed by in the blink of an eye, and I had nothing to show for it. Since there was no point in practicing this late in the day, I reluctantly called out to her.
そうよね。暗くなった海は危ないし。
Then again, it means you'll be performing unprepared tomorrow, huh? This was a really tricky situation. It was like Nagiko was being driven back into a corner.
ねえ、ユウ。明日、迷惑かけちゃダメだよね。撮影、今からでも断った方がいいのかな。
Nagiko seemed to realize the situation she was in. But, Nagiko sounded reluctant.
今からでも断る。
You might not have a choice depending on the circumstances, but what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And I'm not talking about just the reshoot. What do you want to do going forward?
どうしたいかって。そんなの、プロになってみたいのは変わらないわよ。でも、本当になれるのかな？私、最近は合気道の方も中途半端になってるし。
That's a hint, you know? She finally brought up Aikido after how many fucking hours? Her stress and anxiety were only intensifying. I had never seen Nagiko look so depressed before. It was so pronounced that I was at a loss for how to respond.
私なんて、こんなものだったんだ。所詮、胃の中の蛙だったのよ。ちょっとうまく技を決めて、動画でバズって。それで調子に乗っただけだった。いい気になってこのざまで。大会を知らない、ただのお調子者の蛙だったんだわ。
Nagiko.
もう、全部どうでもいい。やめる。サーフィンなんて、もうやめてやるわ。
She made that careless declaration, and it was a serious one at that. If this was what pushed her over the edge for good, then Nagiko would surely come to regret this decision in the long run. I get it. I was no expert, nor did I know much about stuff like this. But I knew something drastic needed to be done. Alright, I've got it. Do you?
Huh?
Do you, though? We're going to host a special training session right here, right now.
ユウ、急にどうしたの？
Don't make a decision just yet. At least not until after this training session. You can quit surfing then if you want.
やめていいの？
I want you to keep going, but the decision is ultimately up to you. I believe that whatever choice you make, it will be the right one. Okay then. Get changed and come with me.
着替えるの？
Yeah, that's right. I would take care of her surfboard while she was getting dressed. I was pretty sure she'd rented a surfboard locker at the rental shop.